My unit wasn't working. I must have pushed the button. All right, welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive safe, Dave here. Honest, in studio by himself, Sir Rick on assignment, and out there getting the news, talking to some, getting the interviews, finding out what's necessary, but not here today with it. That doesn't matter. We are going to have a heck of a show. We've got Bob Perry on later today, who's the president of Health and Transportation. So we're going to have him on here in a little bit. Other than that, there are some pretty interesting things going on in the news today. Number one, I did see that according to the Department of U.S. Energy Information System, it did look like that that diesel had gone down another 5 cents. So the average price of diesel across the country was at $4.83, which is just a little bit down. Still a little bit high. Still a little bit high from a year ago. Oh, $1.35, a little bit higher than from a year ago. So prices still extremely high, going to affect you negatively in regards to you independent contractors out there as you continue to compete not only for the freight out there on the open boards, but also having to pay those high fuel prices across the country. So we definitely know what's going on there. And you know, as you continue to look at that, you try to find great and important ways to offset that by not idling, by driving a little bit slower. You know, you can create a much valued, important part by driving a little bit slower with your fuel and get much better economy when you drive, 10 miles under the speed limit or 5 miles under the speed limit over an extended period of time. It actually makes a genuine impact in the long run. $50 a week, $100 a week, that pays out over a time. I mean, you're talking about saving as much as $5,000 a week. I mean, $5,000 a year if you just pay attention to how fast you drive and what you do out there on the road. So those are going to be some of the things that you can do to help mitigate some of those losses on the fuel out there as the independent contractor. I do know that you got to watch your idle 100%. You got to make sure that you keep your engine serviced and look for those things that might be causing your fuel mileage to go down drastically. And I will tell you, there'll be days, though, that you just lose. You turn and you put your head in the wind and you run up against a 25-mile-an-hour headwind out there on the open road, and you're doing 60 miles an hour. That's like driving 85 miles an hour into, and you're pushing that much air out of the way, even when you're doing into a headwind. So you're going to lose on those days. So you got to be real mindful of where you're going, what you're doing, and also the weather and how it will impact the way you drive and the effect it will have on your fuel mileage. A big concern, always a big concern. We talked about it. You know, I was looking at it on the diesel. It is down 5 cents from a week ago, but then I slid it out to a year ago. It was $1.35 higher than it was a year ago, and it doesn't matter where you are in the country. It definitely has its impact, and just well to be felt wherever you are. I will say that also topping in the news today, as I was trying to keep watch of it on the disaster relief going on in the disaster recovery relief going on in Florida continues. It is a story that is continuing to develop. Yes, sir. All right, bring him on in. It looks like Sir Rick is coming in. Hello, Sir Rick. How are you today?
Dave, I'm doing wonderful, sir. I always know when you're running out of stories, you always go back to the last catastrophe. Had we not had a hurricane in
I'd be out of
Florida,
luck, but
you would have been talking about World War II or something like that. You know,
we could have that discussion.
See the remnants of the last World War going on.
We could actually have that discussion. I think it is it's prevalent of what's going on today. It is it has a lot to do with how we live our lives today.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to go out there and say that I bet you know what, for a little while, and I hate to do this to you, Drive Safe, I'm going to take away some of your stories for the next 3 weeks, but the relief efforts in Florida will be going on for a while. Just to apologize for taking away that breaking news from you, but it's going to go on for a while. It was a hurricane.
I said continues. I said relief effort continues, sir, in incredible and an incredible show of love and support for our fellow Floridians in the United States.
Gotcha. So drive safe. I was at a DECA kind of competition or judge, and that's at the local high school where the kids go out there and they come in. There's about 10 of us up there. They come up and they get like 10 minutes to prepare for a business study that they have to go in front of judges and then kind of go through it, in which we're going to judge them. It's kind of a they go to state for us. We're just there to kind of help out. Anyway, it's just amazing, these kids, really are. I mean, the courage they have, Dave, to look at a study, and these are kids. These are ninth to seniors, and go in front of business folks and pitch their idea based on numbers. I know many adults that couldn't do what those kids are out there doing today. It gives me a lot of hope, for business, for college, for trucking industry. And it also gave me a lot of feedback, Dave, and for our industry and so many other industries out there that, man, we've got to what David Dine and those guys are doing out there. It's so important, getting in front of these kids at this age or even younger to let them know about who we are, what we are, because they just don't know, Dave.
Well, and actually, that's a great. I want to hear, what was the best, if you had to pick one of the many that you heard today, what was the most surprising or the one you were most impressed with?
Well, there were definitely some that were so much better than others. There were times that, and we got a chance to talk out. There's times that we did many of them, and so one of them was a group one, and this was horrible. But what it did though was teach, and it gave me an opportunity to tell them, say, hey, sometimes your partner that you're going in to sell with or whatever that is, they're going to have an off day, and you got to step it up as a person. You can't fail at a business. But Dave, I think probably the only thing I heard was that really impressed me. There's only one person that had this idea, was on a certain amount of budget, and this person did say that. Everybody else talked about spending $5,000 right at once, having all this inventory come in, and then, trying to prove their profit margin on his. This gentleman actually came in with, hey, I believe we can actually do it at $2,500. We have that business that we've lost already. And then, in 5 weeks, we can then take that other $2,500 and reinvest it that we made in profit and buy that extra inventory. So we only have to borrow $2,500. They're out of the box thinking, so critical, I think, in what we do in the transportation. I mean, Dave, it's not just checking a box yes or no. There's so many things that happen that we've got to work around. We've always got to be ready to fly, right? We always got to be ready to switch up to be well versed in a bunch of different things. And I think that's what I saw in some of these kids, just their ability to learn quick, look at numbers, and make decisions.
That I'm glad. I think that'd be exciting to go watch them perform, and to do that, I think it's great, and it's good practice for them.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was neat too. It wasn't, as a celebrity out there, it was cool to get the round of applause. From the
a lot of autographs going out today, Sir Rick.
A lot of autographs. We have
selfies.
In Sir Rick going on. You know what? So it was. You had me. You had. Troy Aikman, it was that kind of group, so a lot of big time celebrities.
Were you sitting next to Troy? Were you?
I was sitting next to a football player. I was, and so it was kind of a toss up. I don't know. We had, between him and I, we had a lot of attention.
I'll bet. Those rings, though, you got to watch those rings.
Dave, I got one ring here, and that's the one that matters right now. It's my wife. I'm married, and I love her, and she is more important than any Super Bowl, World Series ring, or anything like that. That's my prize, Drive Safe Dave, is my wife.
That's thinking outside the box at the last minute, securing that home life. Good job, Sheree.
Hey, tomorrow's my anniversary, my 21st wedding anniversary. I have a couple people that send me reminders on that. Quick story. I know we got to get to our interview, Dave, but so yesterday. Tomorrow's the last game at Ranger Stadium for the season with the New York Yankees playing in here. Judge still hasn't, as of now, broken the record. So I told my wife yesterday, I kind of said, hey, if you want to come, you're more than welcome to go if you want to. But it kind of said it like that. It wasn't like a real welcoming one. Didn't mean it bad, but I was like, hey, if you want to go, because I'm not even sure I want to go, one of those things. And anyway, so last night we're in bed, and she goes, tomorrow's the 5th our anniversary. And I knew it was, but I had forgotten it, for that period of time. That's when I said, well, yeah, that's why I invited you to the Yankees game.
Yeah, there's nothing that says I love you as much as going to the last game of the season, right? There's nothing.
It's the New York Yankees. She's a Yankee fan, and you know what? We've had a lot of our history around those Yankees. And I know, Dave, I'm going to take 3 minutes and tell a story. So this is after 9/11. I've probably said the story before, but for those of you that are watching, they've never heard it. So it was after 9/11. Airports, Dave, at the time, you'd go to check in, and they would shut down at 2 hours before the flight left. No, you weren't turning in any luggage at that point. That was the rule. This is the last game at This is the last year at Yankee Stadium. I've got 4 tickets, okay? And these aren't tickets that you can transfer off the phone. That doesn't exist at this moment. You actually have 4 tickets, and we're meeting another couple out there. We get to the line, Dave. We're there at American Airlines, and we're the next people. We walk up. They go, we're sorry, it's been cut off. It's 2 hours until nobody can check in luggage. And I go, like, what do you mean? They go, well, you can still board the plane. You just can't check in luggage. And I looked at the lady. I said, well, what am I going to do? She goes, well, somebody can ride standby or get on the next flight that's going to Chicago, Cincinnati, and then New York. And I looked at my wife. I said, baby, I love you, but I got to go to that Yankees game. So I took off. She rode. She got there around the 5th inning. And we're still married, Dave. That's how you know it's true love, when you can pass through some of that.
I love you, but I got to go.
I love you, but I got to go to the game.
That's good stuff. All right, Sir Rick, do we have in studio Bob Perry?
Yeah, just going to break.
All right, I'll tell you what, Rick, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll meet up with Bob Perry.
You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong. Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety.
One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection, yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live.
And we are back. Drive Safe Dave here along with Sir Rick. And we have here in studio with us today, joining us virtually, is Bob Perry. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing well. Thanks, guys.
All right, Bob, you are the president of Health and Transportation. What is Health and Transportation, Bob?
We work in providing health and wellness services for carriers for their drivers to help these drivers stay safe on the road and help them maintain their livelihood by helping them pass their DOT exams. And we lose about 325,000 drivers a year because they can't pass their medical exams.
What got you involved in this, Bob? I mean, obviously, what got you involved in this?
I come from a family of professional drivers. I have two brothers who still drive today. I grew up in it. I understand it. I drove myself long enough to realize that that's not what I wanted to do for a profession. So I worked in the health and wellness and healthcare arena for a number. Was always drawn back to working with professional drivers because it's really an underserved population. And you gentlemen, as you talk all the time about safety, well, you can't be safe if you're not well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Bob. Let me ask you a quick question. I was a professional driver for a while, and as you can see, why is it that drivers are typically more unhealthy than other people?
Well, a lot of it has to do with accessibility, right? They don't have access to services like folks who have that are not living on the road. And it's not necessarily that they're unhealthy as anybody else. It's just that, their job demands are so tough and they really can't fit it in to do something about it. I not driving anymore. I fly everywhere around the country. And so, I can tell you when I get on those airplanes, most of the population on there could, be in a health program as well. But, drivers get really put in that category because of their lifestyle and how tough it is for them. And like I said, they don't have access to try and do something about it.
I was reading a couple of really quick facts, Bob, and one of them was that 51% of over-the-road drivers are actually smokers, and that 44% of the drivers report chronic pain, and that the average life expectancy of a driver is 61 years old, which is 16 years lower than the national average. These should be alarm bells going off, right? That we all should take note of about driver health.
They really should be, but unfortunately they're not. Our father was a victim of those stats. He made it to 69 after driving 40-some years. But it's the toughness of the job. We don't train them. We train them how to drive, go frontwards and backwards and those things, but we don't train them how to live on the road and live healthy. And it's tough. Being a professional driver, as you know, if you did before, it comes with a lot of withouts. Without access, like I said, to healthcare, good healthcare. 90-some% of the drivers out there do not have a personal provider, healthcare provider. The last doctor they saw was the last DOT doctor they saw.
Let me ask you a question, Bob. And obviously we have a problem and everything. What is it? How are you helping the drivers? So how are you doing it, and what is it you're doing? Because we really want to talk about your mission and what's going on out there with you.
Well, what we do, one, is that we just help drivers make simple changes every day that they don't know, and try to be active. The numbers I've pulled and working with drivers over the years, the average driver consumes about 4,500 calories a day. And a lot of that comes from liquid, a lot of sugar drinks, and just helping them focus on, making better choices. My philosophy is give me 50%, make a 50% choice, better choice every day. And you'll see a reduction and you'll see a difference. And the great thing, what I love about working with this population is because when they make these changes, it has a direct reflection on their inside, which is their blood pressure, their heart rate, their sugar count, and so forth. And those are things that are governed about them keeping their medical card and being able to keep their livelihood. And when you're a professional driver, like what you've been able to move into, most drivers don't have that ability. That's what they do, is they drive a truck. And if they don't do that, there's a lot of collateral damage to the family. They go without.
Do carriers also have a responsibility to the driver? I mean, the driver obviously has a responsibility to themselves, but do the carriers have responsibility, and how can they help also the driver?
Well, it's a very good question. Thanks for asking that. And I really feel they do.
Blake.
It's kind of like, if you gentlemen are sports fans, and if you watched what was going on last week about the gentleman that, had the concussion, and they're supposed to have these protocols, and they end up putting it back on the field, and who has the responsibility? Players typically they're going to want to play, right? But it's somebody's responsibility to protect that player. I think it's a responsibility for the carrier to help protect their drivers and give them the necessary tools they need to make sure they're safe out there on the road, and put them in a good wellness program where they have access to a coach and help them make better choices.
I agree with you. I think it's an opportunity that carriers can take to protect their drivers. I mean, that's their workforce. I think it's genuinely in their best interest. Not only it would help them, obviously help them in their health insurance. It would help them in keeping the drivers around a lot longer. And ultimately, it's going to be a much healthier environment for them, make it safer out there on the road if the drivers are safe. I mean, healthier, right? I mean, they're obviously making their own, they're benefiting, the carrier's benefiting immensely by doing something to make it better for the drivers.
Well, and also too, some statistics I worked on was about 55% of the driver pool, if you have a driver pool of whether it's 200 or 2,000, most likely 55% of those drivers are operating on either a 90-day card or a 1-year card. And those are skilled drivers. Those are drivers, people who know they want to be a driver and they're skilled. Why would you not want to, protect the driver today before you hire the next unknown driver tomorrow?
And as we talk, I don't want to get off the carrier for a minute. How does a carrier go about helping their drivers? I understand that they're involved, but let's be specific, Bob, on what they can do, because I really think it's important that we get a hold of a group that communicate every day, that work with every day, that talk to every day, the carrier. How do we what is it the carrier can do to start right away to benefit the driver?
So they can reach out to the company that I consult with, and we have a program called Fit to Pass. And Fit to Pass just does that. We contract with the carrier, we assign a coach to the driver, and we stay in touch with that driver. We have incentive programs and fitness challenges, and just find out what is really their challenge, whether it's blood pressure, sugar, whatever. And we coach those drivers up, and they can get these drivers support and help. That they can help them make sure they maintain their biometrics out there on the road and make simple changes. And also a program called Talk Now, where they can pick up the phone 24/7 and talk to a licensed clinician if they need help and need to talk to somebody. And there's other programs out there. There's other support programs out there as well. I mean, there's a couple other companies out there that offer support, and if or putting a coach on site, giving them some education material. There's a lot of simple things that they can do, and I don't know what the right program is for that carrier, but I do know the wrong one, and that's to do nothing at all.
What are let's switch over to the driver themselves. And I think it's important that we all take personal responsibility. Obviously, I wouldn't hurt if I was a bit healthier as well, and to try to do that, my wife is constantly working on me. I will tell you that, Bob. And she's always trying to make sure that I eat right and do right. I don't always follow the guidelines. And I'm just going to tell you, believe it or not, I put some of the stressors in my life as part to blame for my inability to make good, healthy choices. And I think drivers fall into that same category. Don't you agree? Certain things that, I mean, because most people don't understand or get it, that life continues to happen even when you're out there on the road.
Absolutely. And one of the things when I first started in this business many years ago doing what I do now, I used to track, what really was very upsetting for the drivers, what really, made them really frustrated. Number one was they got in a fight with their dispatcher. Number two is they got a distress call from home, right? The basement's flooded. Johnny got kicked out of school. I need $200, and you're out there on the road, and how are you going to do that? And number three was a four-wheeler cut them off. And those are things that drive a driver to get aggravated, reach for, make bad choices, smoke, those kind of things. And when I was listening to come on, when I was in your green room, I heard you talking about pre-trip safety checks and so forth. And that's one of the first things that I tell companies that they can do that's very simple. When you're training your drivers, and we all know that that's what we integrate in their brain, right, to do the pre-trip check every time. They need to train them to do a pre-trip refrigerator check because they're going to get stuck, whether it's construction, whether it's weather, whether it's an accident, something. And when they're sitting there, and if they don't have a good choice to reach for, they're going to make a bad choice.
Wow.
So as simple as carrying, some healthy snacks, some, water and so forth, and it just should be. I mean, I've been fighting this battle for years. Is that, and you gentlemen are in that business, how simple that would be to be the first step. Is okay, Tim, before you get in the truck, check your fridge. Make sure you got some good healthy snacks in there to reach for because you're going to get stuck out there today. It's wintertime. It's going to be snowstorms. Could be an accident, whatever, right? And I don't want you sitting there burning cigarettes and slamming down power drinks.
Yeah, Bob, I'll agree with you. Being out there, it was always easy to reach for a bag of chips, right? Always easy to reach for a Coke. Dealing with it, personally, one of the things I had issue with, I didn't sleep well, and I still don't. I'm not the greatest sleeper in the world, but I think even that can add to your inability to make great choices out there. And I like the idea of communicating being prepared, right? I mean, we do the pre-trip, but being prepared to make good choices later. I think that's absolutely going to be fun. If I don't load the truck up with potato chips, I'm probably not going to reach for them.
Right. It's PPM. It's personal preventive maintenance. Just like we do PM on the truck and equipment, right?
Right.
We have all this technology that can check the engine, the life of the engine. Is there going to be a potential breakdown out there on the highway? Tires, all that stuff. Transmissions, we do all that. But think about it. When you drove, did they do anything to make sure that your engine was running properly? Did they help you take a peek under your personal hood? Did they have you do any screens to check your oil?
No.
To see if you were potentially in danger? No. I don't get it. I mean, it's so simple and so cost effective because you can blow an engine, you can put a new engine in, but you can't put a new driver in.
Bob, I've always thought this, and drivers go out and because they're required to get a health card, because they're required to have a DOT physical, they truly believe they've seen a doctor more than anybody else and they're okay. I've come to realize that was a big, I did that for years. I saw the doctor 4 months ago when I got my DOT physical. That should never take the place of a primary care physician or actually going in and getting and taking care and getting things looked at that may be wrong. Am I right, Bob?
You're exactly right. And a lot of that is because, once again, drivers don't have accessibility. I tell you, there's a new company coming on the scene called Galileo. And Galileo is going to, I really believe that they're going to make a difference in that. They're going to be able to have a driver have like a dock in the cab with them.
Nice.
And so they're going to be coming out with programs as well. And all these kind of programs like that, I always support because they can make a difference. I mean, I work in the space, like I said, I got 2 brothers out there still driving. I want my brothers and every other driver to retire healthy and to be able to enjoy their livelihood and when they're done driving. And, everybody else gets the opportunity to that. Why not drivers? Because they are the most essential workers out there today. I mean, as the saying goes, if you got it, truck brought it. And something else I wanted to mention, I'm afraid that we're losing a little bit of the feeling of, when we went through the pandemic, people were out, really promoting the drivers and appreciating them. And I feel like now it's gone back to where it was before. They're not as much. And like we had Driver Appreciation Week. I mean, it's kind of like, Valentine's Day. I don't need one day in the year to tell my spouse, my loved ones, how much I appreciate them. We should be doing that every day. And we should be doing the same thing for drivers every day. I mean, we got to have milk every day, right? We don't get it once a week, once a year, I mean. So why not show them how much you appreciate them every day and coming from the carriers, and hopefully that would help on some of the turnover.
You know what, Bob, I think you're absolutely right. Do me a favor, tell me what espire.com is and what does it stand for? I see that on your lower thirds. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah. So Aspire they've been around for about 32 years. They're one of the largest and also one of the most effective as far as in the mental health space. Unfortunately, any catastrophe you may see on ESPN, like that nasty event we had down at the school in Texas, that's Aspire getting people on the ground, talking to the people involved, whether it be employees and people affected, and helping them, mentally support and getting them back. And that's what Aspire does. They have the Fit to Pass program. They also have the Talk Now that's part of Fit to Pass. So for drivers that are stressed, they can pick up the phone and talk to someone 24/7. I mean, I think you'd agree, we all could use someone to talk to at some point in time.
Absolutely. Bob, how do they get a hold of you or your organization, whether you're a carrier or a driver? It doesn't matter, right? You just reach out.
Right. No, it doesn't. Yeah, just reach out go to Aspire, espyr.com, and you can read about there and what they can do for you, and if you're a carrier or driver, and get help. And like I said, save the driver today before you hire the next unknown one tomorrow.
Man, I do appreciate it, you being on, Bob. I think it's an important message. It's one that we look at last, right? I mean, honestly, we as drivers, we make sure our truck's running. We make sure our trailer's good to go. We make sure the load gets there. But we rarely take care of ourselves in the way that we should. And I think it's an important message that you're getting out there. I thank you for that.
I appreciate it.
Before you go, Bob, I ask everybody, if you would for me, do me a favor. I ask everybody to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that, Bob?
This is Bob Perry watching BCB Live, safest channel in the nation.
Thank you, Bob.
Reach out to me at bye-bye.
All right, bye. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, thank you a lot. All righty, that was Bob Perry over there at President of Health and Transportation with Aspire.com and Fit to Pass. I'll tell you what, important message to each and every person out there. And I know that here in the transportation industry, drivers get overlooked. They're very sedentary in what their position all day, every day as they drive down the road. And it is easy to get the Pepsi and the hot dog and then get back out there on the road. But Bob is right. We need to make better choices, not only for ourselves, but for the ones that we care about. And let's talk to a driver. If you got an opportunity, talk to them, find a way for them to be safe as well. I'll tell you what, it is important to be a support system for those. We'll be back in about 60 seconds with the safety guy and talk a little bit about safety and a couple of videos before we get out of here. So we'll be back in just a minute.
The biggest fear Gold Star families have, that their child will be forgotten.
Because everyone has a story. There's a story behind every name that you see here.
It's important to teach not just kids, but everybody.
We need to never forget freedom wasn't free.
Their sacrifice is not just our past, it's our future.
Join the mission to remember, honor, and teach. Visit wreathsacrossamerica.org.
All right, Drive Safe Dave back here with Double Check Dale in studio, going down a steep grade, as you can tell, obviously by, you know what, great. Thanks for jumping in here on time, man. I appreciate you being ready to rock and roll over there. Had a few technical difficulties with the feed, but you know what? The consummate professional right here, rocking and rolling.
You know, I do what I can, Dave. I bring what I can to the show. You know, there's a little equipment malfunction over here, but, you know, I don't let that get in my way. I just jump right in and do what we have to do.
Let's talk about a slippery slope. Let's talk about driving conditions.
Adverse weather. You know, I think yesterday you covered the snow pretty well, and today we're going to talk a little bit about ice. You know, it's really pretty straightforward. When it starts freezing, the roads get slick, get off them. I mean, that's the best advice that I can give to anybody. But I mean, it always takes you a little bit of time to get off that slick road, the freezing rain, sleet, whatever. You know, so plan to reduce your speed by at least 50%. You know, the rule is you always have to be able to stop in the distance, a safe distance from whatever's in front of you. So if you reduce your speed by 50% and you still can't get stopped in time, reduce it some more. But the important thing about icy roads and slick roads is get off them. I mean, they're just not safe to drive on.
Well, there's really not much to say when it comes to ice.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about it earlier. You know, when we talk about trucking or driving at all, when rubber meets the road, it's all about friction, going, turning, stopping. All of that's about friction.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to get anywhere you were without friction, and you have none when it comes to ice.
It is very greatly reduced. I mean, greatly reduced. So, yeah, so.
It just makes driving that much hazardous. In fact, it's just precarious and just not safe.
Yeah, but there are times, like I said, you'll be out in the middle of a long stretch where there is no safe place to pull over. It starts freezing rain, the road starts getting icy before the salt trucks get out, whatever. So you're forced to continue on. You just have to slow it down. You have to decrease by at least 50%. And probably more, you know, as the roads get slick, because you got to be able to stop safely in that distance.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the area, and I'm just going to tell you everybody out there, just so you know, your responsibility is the space in front of you, and where your direction of travel. That is you can't worry too much about those coming up behind you.
No.
You can make sure you're well lit. If you have to put on flashers, if you feel as if you might be a hazard out there, but make sure that you watch the space in front of you, because what you don't want is to hit anything and then become a target yourself.
That's right.
So make sure you do that, especially when it comes to ice. I will tell you, it's necessary to always watch the weather when you can. Be prepared if you know that it's going to be in those conditions. And we recommend here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation, that you just not be out there on the ice.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you may be able to handle it better than others, and that's really always the fear is, you know, you're doing okay, but it's the other crazy ones that aren't, you know, taking the precautions, slowing down, trying to get their places too fast. And so, you know, instead of just putting yourself in that line of risk, you know, just get off the road whenever you can, whenever the gets icy and slick like that. You know, you talk about the following distance, and that's one of the things we look at these videos day after day. And that's one of the things we always talk about is that following distance, and on ice it's so much more important. Own that space, like you said, drive safe. Let's look at some videos.
Yeah, let's do it. We got a couple of minutes, let's do it.
You know, I'm going to guess we're probably too close there, you know, and we got a construction stuff coming on. Where are you going to go? You can't really go right, you really can't go left, and so own that space between you and the vehicle in front of you. Just back off and create that space.
Yeah, you want to control this area a little bit better. I know you're moving through here and there is 2 lanes of traffic, but you want to make sure that you're not this close in an environment in which people may or may not be working.
Yeah. You know, it's nighttime. We've got a following distance that's just a little too close to what we need. And again, as our visibility is our big picture lessons, we need to increase that space because we really can't see what's going on. We don't know what's going on ahead of us, and so we want to make sure we have that proper following distance so we can stop if we need to.
Yeah, there's absolutely. Just give yourself a little more cushion.
Kind of watch what we got going on here because we do see, you know, driver does brake and create some following distance.
The driver notices that somebody comes over in their lane going a much slower speed, slows down, moves over, and gets away from this driver.
Yep. And there's a couple things, but as I watch this, he was on cruise, took it off cruise, took the brakes, took that, action to slow down and create that space, keep that space between him and the vehicle in front of him.
Yeah, I like this. This is a nice evasive video. Good defensive posture. Not even in the lane anymore in front of the driver that's directly in front. Basically got away from this person and basically is on the side out of the way. I kind of like this defensive maneuver.
There you go. It's always good to be defensive. We talk about defensive driving, don't we?
Absolutely. This was a little bit of a defensive maneuver. Out of the way, backed off, right-hand lane, not passing anybody, get away from the crazies.
Yep.
Back off.
Took it off the cruise right away, didn't try changing lanes with the cruise on and maintaining speed, just, took the big picture in, analyzed it, and did everything right to create that space, keep that space. Nice job, driver.
We like it when you put all the pieces together and it looks good on a puzzle.
Yeah, it's like that big screen right there. It's all the pieces are there.
All right, everybody, hey, let's have a great, wonderful day out there. Enjoy you being here. Dale, thanks for coming in and sharing some of those fantastic topics and videos, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure being here, Dave. Especially, I wasn't in yesterday, so coming back after that, even more energy and juice about the safety and everything that goes out there on America's roadways.
Slow down, Tiger. All right, everybody, be careful, be safe, and this is BCB Live,
the safest station in the nation.
Every time.